Hi Sarah, thanks for joining me. I'm just waiting for a few others to come online and then I'll start. I'm a little bit early actually. Hi Jules. Hi Sarah, thanks for joining me. Hi Deborah, hi Brenda. I'm just trying to sort my phone out so it'll stand up, so I can see some of the comments, hopefully, as I go. Oh, we got a few on. I hope you're all well. I was watching Coronation Street and I got on pretty sharpish tonight. Big cliffhanger. Hi Heather. So what normally goes on with these lives, if they're all the new ones that like Brenda, which is really nice for you to join us. What usually goes on is I wait a little while for a few people to come on, and then I do some project or other, and we just kind of wing it and go, hi Shell, you all right honey? I'm glad to see you back on the lane. So I think we've got enough going on now. We've got enough. Hi Annie. We've got enough people here, so I'll give it a start. Everybody else can kind of catch it up later. Okay. I'm going to do a mixed media tag. Okay, so we're here. And this tag is one of the tags that Annie has now got in stock on Crafty Lane. It's 2,500 microns. And I think she said they were 35p each. That's it. Really good, sturdy chipboard. I mean, 35p, dead on. Brilliant price. So this is kind of the same layout. I'm going to use the same layout as this one. Mainly because when I'm doing a mixed media item, it takes me a really, really long time to work out the composition of something. That actually takes longer for me than anything else. I start with the papers and then I gather all the bits and bobs together that I want to use, colourways, inks and all the rest of it, and I have it around me, and then I kind of spend most of the time where to put everything for this particular look. When you're doing this kind of thing and you're putting lots and lots of layers on, you know, it does take a little while, but we know where we're going. We know what we're up to. We know where it's not going to take hours tonight. Okay, so what normally happens is I start with a really big piece of paper. Okay, so I didn't bring one with me, so just let's pretend that this is the paper. I get the tag and I lay it in the corner and I draw around it and I cut it out, and we get then the piece of paper. Now, normally you would put some kind of glue on or gel medium or something like that to stick the paper to. And then once it's dry, you would take a piece of sandpaper or a nail file and you would file across the edges just so you've gotten a really nice edge. So it looks like it's always meant to be there, you know. But we're not going to use that method tonight because, as you can see, because of the theme is kind of shabby chic, I'm going with a distressed edge. So I didn't cut this one out particularly perfectly because it really doesn't matter, because we're going to distress the edge. And the way that we do that is with either a distress tool. This is a Tim Holtz tool and it's got little razor blades inside each one of these notches. I've had this years and it's never gone blunt. If you don't have one of them though, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can use the edge of your scissors. You've just got to be a little bit more careful because the edge of the scissors are, you know, you can tear it. But really and truthfully, that doesn't matter because it's the kind of look we're going for. So you just use your tool and you go back and forth until you've gotten the degree of distress that you want. Okay, you can roll it with your fingers if you want it to look really, really distressed. Roll it with your fingers, but I'm going to leave it there and leave it at that, because we really don't need any more level of distress on it than that for now. So this, as usual, is bookbinder glue. It's really strong. It's a good glue. It's really for sticking fabric to grey board and things like that, but it works brilliantly for papers. So we're just going to pop that on as level as we can, and then make sure you cover the chipboard. It doesn't matter if it's too big. As you can see around the edges, it's really too big, but that's okay, because I'm just going to roll it back, make it look a little bit more distressed. Okay, so these papers, what I'm using, are from Craft O'Clock, and they're called Creative Reverie, and I bought the kit a long time ago, and actually I've made a lot of things with them. The kit went a really long way. Great price, and this was just what was left, and because the tag isn't, you know, massively huge, then I'm just kind of using up bits and bobs that I had left on it. So like I said, this look is all about layering. So we've got the first layer down, and on top of there now you could put your stencils, you could put your texture paste, you could use some stamps, anything you want on top of that to create a second layer. But I've chosen to take another piece of paper that came with this kit, and all I've done is torn a rough rectangle shape and used the same tool around the outside to distress it. But this layer I'm going to put on with foam pads, just to give it a little bit more dimension. And also, as you're going along putting stuff on, if you've got your items on foam pads, then you can always tuck things behind it if you feel that the thing that you're making, the composition, is too empty and you want to put a little bit more on. You know, if there's a place that you can stack a few things on. These foam pads are so old, I can't get the backs off her. Plus I've got no fingernails. So there we go. This is not going to be particularly interesting viewing, watching Tracy take off the foam pads, but it's a necessity. So, oh, good grief. Yeah, I usually use foam on a roll, but I've run out, and the weather was so bad, there was no way of me going out and getting them, because I do only use cheap stuff from the pound shop, because I use that many of them, that much of it, that I did actually have one of those massive rolls that cost about 13 quid, and it lasted me about 2 weeks. So I'm not using that. Oh, I give up. Come on, foam pad. There we go. Right, I'm going to glue it on as well, just to give it a little bit more stability, because these foam pads, as they are cheap, are notorious for drying up and falling off. So I'm not going to put it on straight. I'm going to put it on at a little jaunty angle, and you can see that it's given some dimension, a little bit of interest. Okay, so I'm going to put that to one side for a minute, and I'm going to talk about and work with the embellishments. Okay, so the way that I decide on embellishments for the project is look at the colours, look at the papers, look what's going to match in my stash, and I collect them all together first. Okay, so I have just some foliage, which I'm going to show you how to ink up in a minute. I've got some more little bits and bobs of ephemera that came with the kit. The papers, I may not use them, I don't know, we'll see. I've got some flowers that I've made, some little handmade flowers. I'm going to make one of these with you in a minute, just to show you how easy they are. Some sequins. I've also got a nice little resin frame. I shall show you how to put that together. And the other thing that I'm really fond of, really fond of, is cabochons. They're just basically a piece of domed resin. Okay, now Annie sells these on Crafty Lane as well, and she's got loads, and this is where I got these from. She's got absolutely loads of different sizes, right up to 45 mil. And the way that you use these is, find yourself a piece of the paper that you're using with a particularly nice little thing on, because whatever you put on underneath this is magnified. So this one's got a bud on it. Okay, so and the way you attach it, I use glossy accents, all right? I've had this for years, probably, as you can see, it keeps bunging up, which is why there's hardly any nozzle left on the end of it. But you don't need very much, just a little tiny blob, okay? And the way that you do it is you pop it down and you smear it about, okay? Till you've gotten rid of all the bubbles and air, and you just leave it to dry. And once it's dried, and it doesn't take long, and you cut it out, you end up with that. The paper on the back, but the flower that's inside it has been magnified. So that's another embellishment that you can make. Okay, I've also got some leaves, a key, a few odd bits. I'm never sure what I'm going to use, but I collect everything together. And I also picked up some bits of beading and some lace, because this all adds to the shabby chic look. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is show you how to use these frames. If you've got a particularly nice item on your paper, you could put your frame on top of it and not have to back anything. But my frame is going to go there, and as you can see, there's absolutely nothing underneath it, which looks kind of boring. So I've found a little bit of paper, and it's got a pretty flower on it. And I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the back of the frame, and I'm going to frame that flower. As you can see, a nice little embellishment. These resin frames, I mean, you can also get these frames molds and put your air dry clay in them. But these ones I bought from the range, and I think you got about 6 for £1. And there was a nice little heart shaped one, and you'll see that on another project in a couple of days. But that's the resin frame. Okay, now I also like to put these on with foam pads, because then again, you can pop things behind it when you're actually working the composition out. I mean, like I said, I've already worked the composition out of this one, but I can still show you what I mean as we go through it, if we ever get the foam pads off the back. Okay, so a little bit of glue again, because these things do tend to work loose. Find which way you like it. I like it that way, so I'm going to pop it there. Okay, right, sort of slap in the middle of the tag. There we are. Now, I need to colour up these. Okay, I didn't bring a piece of paper in with me to rest on to do the colouring, but I've got an old plastic tub thing here. This will do. Okay, so at the moment it's just cut out of cream cardstock. And I want some green on it, but I don't want too much green on it. I don't want it to be in your face. So I've chosen the 2 colours. I might only use one, may use 2, I don't know. But I've chosen 2 colours, and I've chosen peel paint and shabby shutters. This is Distress Ink. Okay, so I've just got 2 ways of putting it on, really. There's with a brush, which will give you a really delicate look, or with a sponge. I'll try with the brush first, or start off with your lightest one. I kind of want the colour, you may not be able to see this too good, because with a brush, it's very, very, I always find that you don't get a massively heavy coverage. It's great if you want a really pale look, but if you were wanting something that was really vivid, then you've got no chance with a brush. So if you go in with a sponge, and I'm really not too bothered about how much you put on. I'm not being particularly careful, because this is quite pale. And I don't want the whole leaf coloured. I want to see some of the cream. I want to see, well, I don't want everything to be green. So I'll just move that now, and I've already got another one done there. So bring your project back in. Now, whenever I'm doing this, I like my things to either drape from the right or from the left. Okay, in this instance, I'm going to do it from the left, and I want to put it so it kind of looks like that. Okay, but I don't really want this to be completely hidden. So I'm just going to roughly shape the leaves, because one of these projects look so much better. So much better if you have a bit of shape to your leaves, and it doesn't have to be you know, you don't have to go all out fancy. The ones that are protruding over the top of that, I'm just going to take off. Okay, so it now shapes nicely. Okay, so, but I also want it to come down here. So I'm just going to use a small part of this. Don't be scared to cut into your leaves. Pull them apart, put them where you want them. I may well still use some of them as well. But the whole point of this is grouping stuff together. If you can group it together, then it starts to look like you know, a cohesive project rather than something you've just thrown together. So I'm just going to plug in the heat gun. It doesn't take very long to, glue gun. It doesn't take too long to heat up. So it's going to sit about there. Now, some of the embellishments that I put on will also help to glue this down with the glue gun. Okay, so we've got these things. Okay, just give them a bit of shape and you can work out where you want to put them. I quite like them up there. Like I said, you can tuck them now behind your frame. Quite like the idea of them being up there, which will elongate everything. Yeah, that looks quite good. Quite like that. So once you've got them in the place that you want it, if you're happy with it, squeeze a bit of glue in behind. You can also use gel medium as well. That'll give you time to move it about. And then at the very end, the whole thing will dry. And just squeezing some glue in and popping them down. Okay, so we'll leave that where it is. We quite like that. Wait for the heat gun to heat up. And the cabochon. I want that on it. I definitely want the key on it. I know that. So if we pull them to one side, I'm going to show you how to make the flowers as well, because the flowers are important on this. The flowers are an important part. Okay, so I used the Heartfelt Creations stamp and the dies. And all I did was stamp them out in purple, distress ink. And then what you do is you put the die on top and you cut them all out. Pop them all out at once. So I've got some small ones, I've got some large ones, but I really want to show you how to put them together. So first things first, that's it stamped out. And now I want to put some colour on it. Okay, so I usually, to be honest, use my finger. Start in the middle and just pull it outwards. I don't want the whole flower to be totally covered. Leave the edges to be a little lighter. And it really, it's as simple as that. Okay, so once you've got the colour on it, you need a piece of this foam. Okay, you can use the back of a mouse mat if you don't have the foam. And then you'll need a ball tool, which is here. You can get accessible tools. This one is probably the smallest, and then there was 4 in this set. And the big one is really, really big. That's great for shape and foam. And it was about £4 on Amazon. And the way I do it is from the back. Okay, and there's not really much of a technique to it, to be honest. But you just start in a circle going round and round. And you're cupping it upwards. You can also pull it back and that'll cup it upwards. So you're just giving the petal a little shape. Each one separately. It doesn't matter if they crinkle up at the edge. It doesn't matter. Some people spray them with water, but then it takes too long for them to dry if you want to put them on a project. Turn it over, get the ball tool right in the middle and give it a good shove. And then you end up with something that looks like that, okay? Now, when I do these, I do 2 layers because they're quite big, blousy flowers. 2 layers on the big ones, 2 layers on the next one, etc., etc. But if it's a really small flower, I only put 1 layer on because sometimes you lose the detail on it. So if there's too many of the small ones. So there you go. In you go again. Now, so now we've got 4. I've done 2 already. So now there's lots and lots of ways of putting something pretty in the center, but they're both done in the same way. You need a pokey tool. You go right the way through. You go through the middles of all of them, okay? because we are going to thread some, in this instance, stamens through them. Okay, you can get these things as well. These are from the range. They're sparkly, really cute, and they do actually look quite nice threaded through the middle of a flower. But like I said, we're going to use stamens, and the easiest way to do this is to take a piece of wire, and I find this flower soft wire is a good wire. It's very bendy and it's quite thin, so it's easy to get through the middle. So all I do is take a bunch, I don't know, 5 maybe, something like that, 4, that'll give you 8 in the middle. Find the middle of them, then you take your wire, you pop your wire in, so you've got a bunch and you've got the wire like that, and then just twist the wire so it's together and you pop it. I've got one end longer than the other, that's always not a good thing. Do it so that the wire is the same length so that they both go through at once. Okay, pop the wire in through the hole in the middle, and if you rip it, don't worry, sometimes it's difficult to get them all through at once because it's quite a thick thing going through the hole. So if you just hold it and pull it gently, but like I said, if you rip it, don't worry, you can see that they come through. And then all it's a case of doing is just working out how high you want them to be inside your flower. Okay, and when you get to that point, you can either pop a little bit of hot glue behind it, give it a blow so it keeps it in the right place, and then you go on with your next petal through the middle again. And when you're putting this one together, try and offset the petals so that your flower becomes a little bit fuller. It looks far more fiddly than it is. I'm just trying to do it in slow motion. Okay, see, the flower petals have been offset. When you get to that point again, bring in your glue gun and put a drop of glue behind it, and then leave it stood up like that to dry. When it's dry, when it's it's gone cool, you can remove all this wire and you can cut them stamens off, and you've got a really pretty flower. So that's how the flowers are made, but I have already made these ahead of time, and I'll bring the project back in now. Okay, so here are the flowers with the stamen ends cut off, and when I put the flowers on, I always do it so that they come down in size, because I just think it looks a lot more pleasing to the eye. Here's the little ones. See, one layer, the stamen's still on the back of this, and I've only got 2 stamens in this. There's no point in trying to squeeze more than that in. It will just rip the back of it. So cut them off, get them ready to lay in. I've got quite a few of them here. That one's already got the stamen off. Should have one more. I think one more will do fine. So from this point now, all you do is lift up your flower where it sits, pop a bit of glue in and glue it down. And like I said, these flowers will also help glue the foliage that's underneath it. Okay, so I'll lift that one up, put a bit of glue on it. You want it to kind of overlap the resin frame, because when you're doing these, the most things that people get wrong, they panic and get wrong, is that they don't group their items. And I'll show you exactly what I mean now. See, I want this key on there, and by putting it in there, it looks really nice. It looks like it belongs, it looks like it should be there, like it's always been there. But if you want that, if you take that key and you stick that key up there, you can see that, well, I can see that that does not look like it belongs to the rest. And that's the key to this look, making everything group together so it looks like it's really meant to be. So the key can go in there now. The flowers I can push down a bit now. You can always spruce them back up again. Now I've got this cabochon. I want that cabochon to go there. I can see that that looks really nice there. again, if I put that over there or if I put that down there, it doesn't look like it belongs. I hope you understand what I'm talking about, because the composition of things is really important. Well, it is to me. It is to me. So I've got a gap there. I don't know whether you can see, just there. So I'm going to throw in another flower just to fill that gap, fill it up, make it look like it's all meant to be, flowing really nicely. We've got the leaves. Now, if you look down at this corner here, to me, it looks like there should be some leaves there. So we'll bring this one back in. We'll shape it a little. Put a little bit of glue on it. And I'm just going to pop that in there. There we are. Again, my eyes looking there. There's a gap. And this is how, when I'm doing a project, this is how I build it up. Believe me, it does take longer than this normally. So there. So now that flows nicely. I think so. But I've got a gap here now. And I think this flower is meant to be there in that gap. Okay. So I'm going to pop it in. And again, it just finishes that off down the bottom. I'll put a bit of glue on there to hold that. But not this one, because I want this one to be up. Okay. So really, there's not much else to put on there. But I do have a perfume bottle that I really would have liked to have used. So I may put that there. Again, if you pop it here, it doesn't look right. Or there, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right there. Try doing it behind there. No, it doesn't look right anywhere but there. So that's where it's going to go. Okay, and I'm going to hide the top of it. You could, if you wish, cut into it, trim it off a bit. I'm just going to pop it there and let that come over the top of it. Again, another item, another embellishment that you've put on. That looks really, really cool. Now, the only things that's missing now, and I do like to put a sentiment on, but I love these. These are Tim Holtz's Ideology stickers, okay? And he does them in two colours. He does them in the crafty colour and this. And all they are is just words. Lots and lots and lots of words. And you can make phrases out of them. You can just put one word on. And some of them even have phrases in it. But I've really gone through the book. And I've used loads and loads of them. There's some really nice ones. So I have found two words that I like. And it's embrace and imperfection, okay? And I've just backed them on a little bit of the same paper that I've used right the way throughout it, again, to give a consistency. And I'm going to pop them in. Sometimes just one word is enough. And sometimes if it's a phrase, I'll pop it under there and let it come across and rest on this side. But because this word is too small for that, I'm just going to pop it in there. There we go. Embrace imperfection. Now, I do also like to put sparkles on my things. Either get a paintbrush with a bit of glue on, paint them the tops of the flowers, then throw some glitter at it. But I don't want to throw glitter at it today. And what I'm going to use is sequins. Okay, sequins add a really nice finish. And also these glass beads. They're just, I don't know, little tiny bits of resiny stuff. I don't know what it is, but you can get them everywhere in different colours, but I only ever buy the iridescent ones. Okay, so I'm going to just dot a couple of dots, 4 or 5, maybe one up there, and I'll pop a sequin or two in. Now, you can't really see them, I don't suppose, until you start to photograph these, or when they're dry totally, the light hits them and there's just a tiny bit of sparkle. You know, it just adds, again, another layer. If they don't stick to your finger. And this one has. Oh, how annoying. There we go. Okay, so I'll lift it up now and let you see it. So, okay. Not sure if the light's that great, but from here where I am, I can see the sequins sparkling in the light. Yeah, so that's that. Now, the only other thing left to do is to put something on the top to hold it up. Now, you can either go with some beads. Now, if I was to put the bead on, or I was to put this on, I would also then, whichever one I use, tuck a little bit in here and there to make the whole thing work. You know, because you put it up there, put a little bit of it in here. So if I just get the hot glue and put a little bit of glue there, okay, I'm gonna just set them 2 beads there, and that will be the holder. And I'm also, I think, gonna put a little bit of lace over the top to hide the fact that the beads are just sitting there. Okay, and all I do is fold it in half, pop another little bit on, and it just gives another edge to the top. Pop that there, and while that's drying, I might just pop a few in. Which one did I use? That one. Okay, I'll see what it looks like. Fold it in half, scrunch the end, and you can pop them in and around here. Yeah, that works. So lift up your flower, pop a bit of glue in, scrunch the end, and push it down. A little bit of lace just there. And again, usually do this in 3s, 1 or 3, either or. I'll put the lace, glue on the lace there, and just pop a little bit in there. So it's cohesive, it goes right the way through. The stuff that you've used is on the top and it goes all the way through. And to be honest, I think that's all it needs. I don't think it needs any more than that, and I'll start to fall out with it. So there we are. So I'll just move all my rubbish out the way and I'll lift it up. Okay. I will put photos of these on tomorrow, so you can have a look at them and see, you know, you can sort of blow them up and see the detail if you can't see them on my photos. So that's that. And that was the one I did. There's not much difference in it really. A couple more flowers in there. That's it, different key, smaller bottle. But again, more or less the same. So the other thing I wanted to show you, which is, I did a card the other day and there was quite a few people asked me how I did the background for it. Okay, this was the card, a sweet little card. I used an image from Lily of the Valley and some die cuts and some stars and what have you. But it's this wood effect in the background that people were asking me about. So I thought I'd show you. Now this is a really, really easy technique, and here's 2. It just shows that you can do it in any colour. If I bring this one back in, this one was done with reds and browns, this one was done with browns and greens, and this one has got like a kind of a beachy effect. I don't know, but this one would be perfect to use for a shabby chic background. It would look really good. So I'm going to show you how to do both of these. Really, really easily done. You'd be surprised. So I'm just going to bring back in my plastic tub. I'll start with this brown one. I'll do it on the back of this because you can use either side of the craft card. It is craft card, and all I've done to it is cut it to the size I want. I've put it on a scoreboard and I've scored it at 2 centimetres all the way across. That's it. I quite like, for the size there, I like 2 centimetre planks. If you were doing a bigger one, I'd probably do 2.5 or 3 centimetre planks. But for this, 2 centimetres is enough. And I am going to really crease them quite well, and you'll see why in a minute. Now, doing the brown one. So you need a couple of colours of ink. And I'll take over 4 just to see. And it's antique linen. It's vintage photo. walnut stain, which is quite dark, and I've also got a bit of fired brick just to add a bit of red into it. But any of your browns would work, as long as you've got 2 or 3 different tones, any of them would work. And actually it does work really well if you've got a dry ink pad. Okay, so this one's quite juicy, but literally this is all you do. You hold it flat and you gently drag it down from top to bottom. It doesn't matter if it's all fully covered. I hope you can see this. Okay, you just drag it gently down and you get your ink pad hits and misses, touches where it wants to touch. Okay, so that's your first colour. Go in then with the next colour, which is Vintage Photo. For me, it's Vintage Photo. Again, just drag it down. Don't press it right down or you'll just colour the whole thing. Okay, there we go. There we are. If you want, you can, if you want, to go a little bit heavier on the edges. From the top to bottom. Okay, there we go. Next colour is Walnut Stain. This is a really dark one. And what I like to do with this now, if these lines that you've done, these score lines, aren't showing up as much as you wanted, just run the dark colour just down the edges of that, right the way down the edge, and you'll see when I lay it flat that the planks then really do stand out a lot more, as you can see. Okay, I'm going to drag some of this in as well, but I'm only going to drag it in from the top because it is quite a dark colour. There we are. I'll leave this one a little lighter. In fact, I'll put the red in it, and there's the red one, and then I'm now going to do exactly the same, but I'm only going to drag here and there with the red. If you're really arty, before you start all this, you can draw some knots, you know, draw some knots in the wood, but I'm not arty, so I'm just leaving it at that. Once that dries, that looks really good. You can put as many colours in as you want. I mean, this has got green in. It looks like mouldy old wood, doesn't it, this one? So that was the wood one, and I'm just going to show you that it works just as well with the white. Okay, now these ink pads I've got to use for the white one are similar formation to Distress Ink. It's not really as good in my opinion, but these are Alter New ink cubes, and the only good thing about these is when you get them in 4 colours, and they're always sort of one depth away from each other in tone. So I'm going to go in with some blues on this one, and I've also got some greys, but I just want to show you something else as well. This is a Stampin' Up pad, and the pads on these and the Distress, these ones are like a felt kind of pad. The pad on this one is more like a foam, and so if you're using a pad like this, you have to be a little more careful, because if you're not more gentle, it gives you this effect, this like kind of, I don't know, it sort of soaks in quicker because of the pad, I would imagine. But it's a nice grey, so you just got to be a little bit more careful. You see, I've got brown all over my fingers as well, which isn't going to help. And plus, this is a massive ink pad, so it's more difficult to. Can you see the difference that it brings out in the planks? So just be aware of that when you're doing these things. The pad itself makes a difference too. So I'm going to bring in the felt pads now, and this is the palest grey, and I'm just going to go down. These are really quite dry, but it still will give a nice look. I've even got a bit of red on there. It's probably come off of the thing. This is the next one up, which is a little bit darker, and now you can see the planks do start to come in. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to go with 2 greys, and I want to put a bit of blue, I think, in this one. So I'm going to bring in the blue one. So whenever you get an ink pad that's going really dry, then don't throw it away. Keep hold of it, and you can use them for this, because there's always a little bit. If you store them upside down especially, the ink will all run down. And there's a blob there, which is fine. I can live with that. There's more than likely something I'll put on top of it will cover it anyway. So I did, right, okay, I'll bring them all back in. Even when it's dry, you can still go over the top of that one and add a little bit more colour onto it if you're not happy with it. These, I didn't go over these planks because it's a beachy, washed out look. That's enough for me. Those markings on there is enough for me. I'm quite happy with that. And then there's the green one. And there you go. There's the brown one. So I hope you are going to have a go at this, because it really is a cool technique. Well, that's it really, girls. I've showed you how to do the flower. I've showed you how to do the background. I've showed you how to make them. And I've made a mess in my kitchen. So anyway, thanks very much for joining me. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll have a go. And if you do, tag me in it so I can see it. And I'll let you all go now. So I'll speak to you soon, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow on the lane. Okay, bye.